And welcome to Dualshock'd, the Brotherhood of Geeks PlayStation podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brett J. Rasmussen, and over here I got my other co-host.
Yeah, it's Spectre.
Yeah, what is up, my dude? What is up, my guy?
How's it going?
I've been better. I've been better.
We live in very peaceful times.
It's yeah, it is. Yeah, it's. But yeah, but I mean, how have you been doing otherwise? What's been going on for you, my man?
I've been doing pretty good. I mean, I've just been most recently just really enjoying the hell out of the Command and Conquer remaster. Just came out. Like honestly, without hyperbole, I mean, probably the best remaster, remake, whatever you want to call it, that we've seen, easily in the last, couple years. I'd say since Crash.
Wow, those are some big words coming from Spectre.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, yeah, I was very surprised. I was ready to be disappointed. I'm like, oh, okay, it's like, it's EA. I mean, keep in mind it's EA, so it's like, oh god,
Very true.
Yeah,
you ain't wrong.
But
you ain't wrong.
But it's like, okay, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. It looked like they made all the right moves. They had, the original developers, that came back and helped out with it. They had the original composer come back. I mean, just really, I don't want to get into like a full review of it, but just extremely well done. Like I said, I'd say it's a must. If you're a Command and Conquer fan at all, it's a must buy. And even if you're younger and you it was before your time, like for you, for example.
I mean, like I remember, I don't know if I played Command and Conquer, but I have seen how the game works, and I've played those RTS style of games. Again, I played Warcraft 3 way back in the day. So, and Command and Conquer is that same genre of games. It's that RTS. You have your base, you have the opponent's base, and you have to try to take it down. So,
yeah.
Right?
So I mean, same basic idea, but yeah, it's in some ways, I think maybe the younger crowd might see it as more of a primitive thing, like, oh, why is everyone going crazy for this? I mean, this is so ancient looking and stuff, but it's you kind of had to have been there. It's just was a a beautiful, amazing game for it, especially for its time. It had a lot of charm, and it's really responsible for a lot of modern, really just a lot of modern concepts of real-time strategy that we just take for granted now. And so it's just it's like I said, very well done. They even have an online multiplayer component to it, which was like, I mean, technically the original release had that, but that was back on, like you had to use dial-up with that and stuff. I mean, it was just kind of cumbersome to do.
Yeah.
And so they like I said, really stand up job, and kind of a use. I mean, really, it's kind of a useful game to do this to, because really, honestly, on a modern PC, it's actually in some ways hard to run the original, because PCs have kind of become too advanced to even like run it to some easily. I mean, Command and Conquer originally came out on DOS. I mean, that ancient stuff. I mean, this was on DOS, and then it was ported over to Windows 95. I mean, it's an ancient game, but still just tons of fun. It still holds up literally 25 years later. So yeah, I like I said, I can't sing its praises enough. Really good job. I hope it sells well. I hope we see more remasters for Command and Conquer in the future.
Is it only on PC? Is it only been remastered to the PC, or is it also on consoles?
That's a good question. It's only on PC for now.
Okay.
I could see a scenario where maybe it goes on console. I mean, of course, as an RTS, it's really designed for PC. It was originally available on PC. I mean, but the game Command and Conquer was famously ported to tons of other systems. It was on,
it was
everything
on PS1 and I believe
PS1, Nintendo 64. It was on a bunch of different. Sega Saturn had a version of it. It was on a bunch of different systems. It was ported everywhere because it was an extremely popular game.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is possible that they make a console version in the future, especially with they've made some quality of life changes to the game, I think that would make it actually easier on console. Things we like I said, things we take for granted, like being able to queue up units, like in a production queue. The original version of the game, you couldn't even do that. It was that old. So,
Yeah.
adding things like that, little features like that, makes it a little bit more accessible, I think, to console. So
Okay.
I could see a console port.
Okay. Yeah, no, if it comes to console, and like I get it because like I played Halo Wars, which again, this is a PlayStation podcast, but I play other consoles, of course. And I played Halo Wars on Xbox, and I enjoy it, but like that game was made for the Xbox, so like RTSs when you port them from PC to console, it's a little bit harder. It's not just like okay, it's easy to map out the buttons. It's a much harder. So, but I love RTSs. I played Warcraft 3 on my computer way back in the day when I was like in high school. Loved it. So I get you. And if it comes to consoles, that would be really good to have like an RTS on consoles. I think that'd be great. So yeah, so you've been playing all of the Command and Conquer.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and I'm still playing Near a decent amount as well too. So
Near Automata, right? Near Automata.
Near Automata,
Okay.
correct? Yeah, and so kind of been bouncing back and forth between that and this, but yeah, no, I've just kind of been addicted to this right now. Um, but yeah, but I've been hogging a lot of the time already here. So what have you been up to?
So I've been playing through Last of Us, the first game. I'm playing through, as I said, I'm still playing through Last of Us. I'm playing through that. I'm playing through all the DLC. So I'm playing through Last of Us, and then Left Behind DLC, kind of to complete the story, to prepare myself for Last of Us Part 2 that comes out on June 19th. So I've been playing that, and I mean, again, like the game that I can just turn my brain off and just if I just want to throw on something on Hulu, Netflix, YouTube, whatever it is, because I listen to, especially on YouTube, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I've been playing Destiny, and even today on June 5th, or I'm sorry, on June 6th. So they're like on June 9th there's going to be a live event because that's when the season changes. So on Bungie's on Twitter, they went ahead and be like, "Oh, come, log into the game and prepare yourself for the next change to Destiny." But like today there was their very first live event, kind of similar to what Fortnite has been doing. Like Fortnite does a lot of like a live event. So if you're online at this time, they did you get to see a special trailer on Fortnite. There was a live concert, on there, like all these different live events, and that's kind of becoming a thing. So Bungie did that, where in the season, the big enemy ship from the beginning of the game is about to attack, but you throughout this entire season, so for the past like I would say month or two, you work with Rasputin, which Rasputin is just kind of this big AI that can just shoot down, like he has an Omega weapon, and like today or on June 6th, they Rasputin took down this massive ship and it fell into the atmosphere of the tower, which is like the main hub in Destiny 2. So again, they're doing live events. So there was that. So I've been playing that game just to mull about, just to like, while I'm watching, as I said, while I'm watching podcasts. I watch a lot of wrestling podcasts. So I would play Destiny when I'm listening to that, but I've also been playing through Last of Us, the first game, through that. Which again, Last of Us, I love The Last of Us. I know you have a different opinion, Spectre, but like, again, yeah.
Yeah.
Spectre's like, I'm just gonna leave it there. It's just gonna put a pin in that, and I'm done.
Yeah, I say that my typical lispy voice. Yeah.
Yes. Very nice. Yes. All right. So he's like, "Oh my god, I can't even handle this." No, I would never do that. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
So yeah, so no, that's kind of what's been going on. Just preparing myself for Last of Us Part 2, and really hoping to see that I'm the leaks and everything. We're gonna talk about this because I already know that you've been spoiled. You've seen the leaks. I have not, so I am very. I'm looking forward to talking about Last of Us Part Two. Did you see the state of play about of Last of Us Part Two, or have you heard about it or whatever?
I heard about it, but I can't say that I actually watched it.
Well, did you see that? Like in the game, Ellie goes into the water, so she needs to get into this building, or she needs to get to this one side. So she goes through this river, and then like it comes up, like you're up to the building, and there's just this person who's like listening to something, and then all of a sudden, like she comes out of the water, and then she has the shiv right up against her neck, and you see the woman who was listening or playing, she was holding a Vita. She was using a Vita.
Oh,
I
I
lost.
did hear about this.
Oh
Yeah, I heard
man, it
about
was
yeah,
great. I
I thought
saw.
that was a cute little reference. I
I
give them
loved
credit for that.
that. Like I like in my reaction video. Uh, I was like, oh my god, it's a Vita. It's a Vita. Like it took. I was kind of like focusing on that for that because I still own my Vita. I still play my Vita every so often.
Yeah,
And
you and I are one of the couple thousand people that bought a Vita, right?
yeah,
Not even.
yeah. No, and again, and mind you, it does make sense because the outbreak happened in 2013. So the Vita was already out. It was already a thing. So the one thing I will say, and then the one thing I will say, I'm like, how the hell do you charge that thing? It's hard to charge that thing today, especially if you got the original model, because there's that weird freaking rectangular piece that goes to the bottom. Like, how do you make sure that that charge port lasts for that long? Like,
Right.
oh man, I love it. Like again, that was just a really good Easter egg. I was like, oh my god. But again, I enjoyed it, but again, I guess we'll see when the game comes out. So yeah. But yeah, should we go ahead and get started?
I believe we shall.
All right, so let's begin. This is News of the Nation.
Glad you're excited.
Yeah, I know. All right, so first things first. We're already in June. This has already happened, but it's a new month, hence new games for PlayStation Plus. Coming from the PlayStation blog, we have our two games for the month of June, and what it would be, it's going to be Call of Duty World War II, which actually came out earlier. It came out on May 26th, so it came out like about a week before June, because normally what happens on the first Tuesday of the month, that's when the games switch over. They put Call of Duty out a week before, which I believe it was because of Memorial Day, I believe. But you get Call of Duty World War II and Star Wars Battlefront 2. And I know you and I have talked about this game a lot.
Yeah, I was one of the ones that actually defended it back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's and plus, I mean, now it's this isn't a bad month. I mean, it's a nice contrast with the previous month
Yeah,
and everything.
and I know you and I like discussed like last month. Like I wasn't really happy about it, but like you were like, but it's different games, so like this is okay. Are these good games? Not really. Depending on who you are, but they're different games. And I was like, yeah, that you are correct, and that's one of the things I like about Plus. But this month they went, here are two big games, mind you. Call of Duty World War II is what I believe 2 years. Yeah, that's like a 2-year-old game, because I believe before Modern Warfare was Black Ops 4, I believe. So, yeah. So, I mean, mind you, you have a really old game. It's a good game. The campaign is good. I know that the campaign was really good. The multiplayer is the multiplayer. And then Battlefront 2, which, again, I've actually gone back into. And ever since they've kind of changed how the game works, it's actually more enjoyable.
Yeah, it's I mean, like I said, it's a game that got kind of a lot of love over the years, and from its developers. So good on them, salvaging it from a very rocky start. It's kind of similar to what happened to Fallout 76, where it had a very, very rough, very controversial launch, and over time, it's gradually improved to a point where it could be, it's actually a decent game. Similar idea here. I had fun. I got the platinum for Battlefront 2. I enjoyed it for what it was. Definitely, from a gameplay perspective, it was a lot of fun. Aside from the microtransaction controversy, it wasn't all that bad of a game.
No, and like we've discussed it before, like when the gameplay underneath, like when it first came out, it was just it was bad. It was absolutely bad with how leveling worked. Was just it's not fun. It wasn't fun when it first came out, and like really what very much was pushing you towards to do microtransactions in order for you to level up faster or whatever it would be, with the loot boxes and everything. But underneath all of that was really good gameplay, really like how like the shooting mechanics, and just it was more finessed from Battlefront 1 on the PS4 and on the PS4. So and I that was the one thing I have always said, is that the gameplay underneath all of this crap is good, but that alone is not enough to make me go, oh, this is okay. And that, again, that's my opinion. But now they have changed the way the game works. There's so many, they give you so much now, which is good. There is still a progression to getting it, but it's faster. It's easier. They're kind of literally just like throwing it to you, which is good. Again, the campaign is 4 hours, and it's very much a campaign.
The campaign's the low point of that game. I think a lot of people kind of went into it like actually expecting something decent, and it's like, okay, the Battlefront 1 didn't really have, or what was it, 2015 Battlefront didn't really have a campaign, but they're trying something different this time around. It was kind of an interesting idea too. You're playing as a the Imperial. You're like a storm. You're playing it from a stormtrooper's perspective, essentially, and it didn't work out at all. The story was very lackluster. The game, the gameplay itself was very standard, generic slot, FPS campaign. So that didn't materialize so well.
Yeah, and then you got World War II. Which that, mind you, it's odd because both World War II and Battlefront 2 did have microtransactions that were that had problems. Call of Duty, I'm not entirely sure if they fixed it or changed it. I know that they were getting flack about it too, where Battlefront 2 was like the headliner. Like that's kind of what kind of put loot boxes on the map in a negative way, with how just crazy and out front it was. But the Call of Duty campaign, I know, has been said to be pretty good. So again, you got these two games, and as we always recommend, just add them to your library. That way, if you ever want to get to them, you want to play them, you have them. That's why I always recommend that.
Agreed.
So yeah, let's move on. Next topic is that Last of Us Part 2 just apparently can't get a break. It's hey, Last of Us.
It's the gift that keeps on giving with this game. Yeah.
God help me. So Last of Us Part 2 seemingly has been blocked in the Middle Eastern countries. Pretty much, users on Reddit have been reporting that the game is currently unavailable to even pre-order at the United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia PS Store pages. In contrast, accessing the PlayStation Store from places like the US or the UK at the moment allows you to view and pre-order Last of Us Part 2. Many users have come to the conclusion that the game may have been banned and blocked for sale in those countries. Interestingly, if you search for Last of Us Part 2 on both the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia PS Store, they do provide avatars and themes for Last of Us Part 2, but not the game itself. And this source is from IGN, and they have there's also the source to the Reddit kind of like the Reddit. I don't know. The stream, the blog, whatever it would be on Reddit.
They ask me anything, Reddit, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. But reporting from IGN, the Middle East is known for having less tolerance for LGBT themes than the Western territories, and some more.
Less tolerance. I like that. Less tolerance. Yeah. Just slightly, just a little.
Oh. And some work has been banned, such as this year's Pixar movie Onward, due to the line and dialogue referencing a gay relationship. The Last of Us Part 2's protagonist, Ellie, which is gay, could have potentially caused this block. It has been rated by the ESRB, Last of Us Part 2, with an advisory warning of nudity and sexual content. However, considering Cyberpunk 2077 is still available to pre-order in both Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, the suggestion is that those specific elements, which are definitely in Cyberpunk 2077, are not the issue. So again, it's very much about that, like, Ellie is a lesbian. She is gay. That's why it's blocked over there. What do you think?
We were kind of talking, off the thing about this too. I think a lot of these companies don't, they kind of lack the courage of their convictions. Like, I mean, you could just if you on one hand they're you go to their Twitter, you go to their website, and it's oh hey I mean we're in June now, so I mean there's a this is Pride Month. So I mean, on one hand they're celebrating that, but then in the next breath they're it's just like I don't know. They're not. They're still doing business in these countries, in these areas where people's rights are being suppressed. So I don't know. I guess for me it's I guess I don't know. It's I guess they like they rather have the money's more important than the integrity.
It's rough, but because you are a business, you have to make money. But yeah, it's I don't know.
I don't know how they can come back and claim that they're we really support this, we this and that, but then we're gonna go do business over here and change our games and censor them or do these things to them to make them compliant with these laws and rules that we don't agree with.
Well, again, there's a lot of censorship, especially overseas, with different things. And again, in the article, it does say how Cyberpunk 2077, of kind of how that game is being dealt with how Last of Us Part 2 is. They're very different things because you can still pre-order and purchase Cyberpunk, but it has been reported or stated that Last of Us Part 2 is blocked, or you can't pre-order it. And it most likely is because of your main character is gay. And kind of it seems like the premise of the story is about that. So, and again, we will see when the game comes out. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't think it should be banned. Like I don't think it should be banned, but it is that culture. So what do you do about that? And it's that if they are going to block it, then you shouldn't sell there, but that is money that you lose. So I can understand it from the business sense, but then you're kind of contradicting yourself about like, well, gay pride and all that kind of stuff. But then there's this country that you're doing business in and they don't support it and you're still making money there. And I've had my own problems with wrestling. I'll just pivot a little bit. With like WWE does a lot of, has been now making deals with the Crown Prince in Saudi Arabia, and that's something that I'm not okay with because of women. Women can't wrestle there, and they have had one or two shows where they've had one match where women wrestle, but they're completely dressed up to their neck in full clothes because of how their culture is. But their shows have been not good, and I do not agree with WWE doing shows over there. And it's not because of the fans, because the fans there love WWE, but it's because of the what has happened, like when Emil Khashoggi got shot down and murdered. There's a bunch of political stuff about that. I don't want to dive in too deep because we're talking video games, not wrestling. But it is that I wanted. It's that kind of thing. What do you do? So I don't know. Next topic is the IGN Summer of Gaming schedule. This continues to get updated. We've brought this up before in other episodes and other news of the nations, but IGN is kind of taken over to be like the new E3. E3 got canceled because of the pandemic, and there are there's the IGN Summer of Gaming, and then there's Summer Game Fest, which is ran by Jeff Keighley, which we've already seen. We saw the announcement of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remaster, and then we saw the showcase of the Unreal Engine 5. This is going to be done. I'm not going to go ahead and do it, but the source to the schedule is in the description. We always source everything. So if you want to go to the description and see the complete full rundown of what's scheduled, but I'm just going to do a few things. So on June 10th, they're going to do a pre-show charity stream of Doom Eternal Speedrunner. And then they have the IGN Expo debut. So there's going to be tons of different unannounced, like they say, unannounced game, but from this developer, trailers, gameplays, previews, other stuff. June 11th is the second day, and like they have the unannounced games they have. So I'll mention a few studios. They have Deep Silver, Merge Games. They have a lot of Deep Silver. Code Symmetry, Bloober Team, Sega, Gearbox. Let's see. Firefly Studios, Sega Atlas, Zen Studios, Rockfish, Arc Systems, Excalibur Games, Easy Day Studios. There's a bunch of them, and again, as I said, it's going to go out through all of June. So again, they're kind of turning this into an event, which is great. This is really, really good. What do you think?
I agree. Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's good to have something in place of E3. I don't like this kind of, like I've said before, I don't like this kind of slow drip feed of information. I liked having the, like a big event. I liked having, an E3. But I mean, obviously we can't have that this year. So
the one thing I will definitely say, the difference with the drip feed that we're going to be getting this year because of the pandemic, compared to normal E3 is like when E3 happens, it's just a shotgun blast of everything. Everything is hitting at you all at once. And it's a lot to take in. It's a lot. Regardless if we're, for us, we've covered last year's E3, and that's a lot of information that we even covered just being at home. And then when you're there as part of the press or whatever, that's still a lot to take in, including, and then you're there and you're with getting interviews and everything else. It's just, you get so much coming at you. The one thing I will say I like about this, like a little drip feed that we're getting, is that you're letting these new announcements breathe. You're letting these new games that could be getting announced. Like, again, there are some big companies like Deep Silver, Sega, so on and so forth. You can let these big games and let them breathe. Like, again, if Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 Remastered was a part of was on the Xbox, showcase, at E3, let's say that happened, that would be one game, but that would be one game in a list of multiple games that we would be excited for. Where when Tony Hawk got announced, we got to just be excited for this one game. I actually don't mind this drip feed of it, because then you can.
I guess that's a good point. Yeah. I mean, it's you raise a good point that sometimes I think with E3, traditional E3, things can get lost in the shuffle.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is things can get lost in the shuffle. You don't really get a chance to kind of oh, okay, I can really think about oh, hey, isn't this cool that we're getting a Tony Hawk remaster? I mean that that's really awesome news, but that might have been lost if
a bigger game
had,
got
10 other.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
like
10
a
other announcements right behind it.
And like I like even in like when like the 2013 the announcement of Xbox and the PS4, the Xbox One and the PS4, like because PlayStation went last, mind you, they hit it out of the park and pretty much kicked the crap out of what Xbox message was because it was very confusing and it didn't know what its message was. But regardless, PlayStation had the mind, it kind of was in our mindset more than Xbox was. One, because it was last, but two, because of how the message was done. So like when you have these like things, like even like what was it, 2018, you had or even last year you had one of the big talking points that people still remember is when Keanu Reeves comes out for Cyberpunk, where he's Johnny Silverhand. That's why he comes out. He's one of the main characters in the game. People still remember that. There's very few things that I remember from E3 last year. That's one of them. But like it's those kind of things. There's a lot of stuff that gets lost in that. Where if you do this drip feed, and you're gonna be able to remember a lot more things easier, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So yeah, but let's move on. Next is that BlizzCon 2020 has been canceled. This is again, a lot of things have been getting canceled, just like E3 and other thing. But from BlizzCon's own site, it pretty much just said there's just a complete statement, but it pretty much says that to update on it because they were trying to push it back to see if they could do it, but because of the pandemic, they've canceled it. They I believe they are, yeah. So we were talking about how we might be able to channel the BlizzCon spirit and connect with you in some way online, far less impacted by state of health and safety protocols for mass in-person gatherings. We want to do this as soon as we could, but because of this is new territory and there are different factors being involved, most likely they're going to do a BlizzCon sometime early next year in 2021. But yeah, so this is completely canceled.
Yeah, I mean, just like everything else. I mean, I in terms of what they could actually talk about, I mean, it probably would have been some more about what's it called, Overwatch 2 or
Yeah,
whatever,
it would have
and
been Overwatch
maybe
2.
a little bit more information about Diablo 4. Probably would have spent a lot of time. I know they're doing their own. I keep forgetting what the date for it's going to be, but they're going to do an event uh, for World of Warcraft for the because there of course is a new expansion coming out, presumably still this year. So yeah, they're going to do another information event for that. But that was probably the only like pertinent piece of information they really had to get out was details on World of Warcraft Shadowlands.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, so that happened. Let's move on. Next topic is that EA renews their multi-year deal with of the NFL for Madden. So their contract was going to be coming up this year, and EA is like, "Yep, you're staying with us," and I believe it's until 2027. Several more years. I believe it's until 2026. I could be wrong, but it's a multi-year renewal, but it's for a long time. It's going to be a long time till that this contract and this deal renews. According to a press release, the multi-year renewal of the partnership means more football simulation games from EA, as well as, quote, an additional innovative ways to play through the new genres, expanded esports program, arcade style, and enhanced mobile experiences and more across the platforms. Which means for the next couple of years, EA Sports will be the home of the authentic football simulation. 2K recently signed a deal to bring back NFL 2K, but those are specifically non-simulation games and do not directly compete with EA Madden. So it looks like 2K does have a deal with the NFL, but it's not the simulation that Madden is known for. So it's going to be more very much big arcade like. EA has been working with the NFL, so on and so forth. Yeah, so, oh, god dang it. I don't know. I honestly wish that, again, I'm like, it sounds like NFL is going to have that different kind of game with 2K, but just nothing. These Madden games from EA are just Nothing, mind you. I love wrestling, and I continue to say that. So I don't really follow football, even though I'm from Green Bay. Like, but like, uh,
It's not. I mean, it's yeah. I think the Madden franchise has a reputation for being pretty samey and generic, and it's just
and then you have Ultimate Team, which is just, again, EA's Ultimate Team is just, ugh, God, it's so bad. And again, that's my own opinion. But I hate Ultimate Team. I just, because in order for you to, and we've heard there have been multiple reports and multiple complaints from people about how they've spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars in order to get that one A-star player for their Ultimate Team in order for them to be competitive. Like, it's a mess.
yeah, they've done a good job of monetizing the hell out of it. That's for sure. I can't. I'll rescind that though, because I can't really. For this is one, at least for today, I can't make fun of EA because they did a really good job of Command and Conquer. So at least they've gained 1 day of immunity from me.
I just remembered. I thought you were boycotting EA really hard.
Well, hey, I did say from the outset that I would pick up Command and Conquer if it ever did come out, and it did come out. So I said that from the outset, and then I did try out what's it called? Fallen Order. That's what I wanted to say, which was a decent game. So they're slowly but surely, warming their way back into my heart. But it's still tough. But yeah, like at least for today, I can't criticize them that much because they brought one of my favorite games ever back. So, and they did a good job of it too.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. Let's move on. Next topic is that Marvel's Iron Man VR has gone gold. There is a tweet from Camouflage, which is the developer that has made the game. They have tweeted that after years of hard work, we are proud to announce that Marvel's Iron Man VR has officially gone gold. We can't wait for everyone to #suit up when the game releases exclusively for PlayStation VR on July 3rd. So it has gone gold. The development is finished. It just has to go through the printing to make the disc, make the boxes, all of that stuff. And it is going to be out on July 3rd. Also, there's an article from IGN that they've gone deeper into kind of how development happened, and like a few quick points is that they when the pandemic happened, they have started working from home, which is what a lot of developers have done. The team acclaimed to working from home. It actually lined up with the team's core focus rather than needing to ideate on VR gameplay ideas. Camouflage team could be heads down.
Iterate.
Oh yeah, it's IDEATE. I probably said it wrong.
Yeah, iterate.
All right, thank you. I'm glad that you can tell me how words work. The Camouflage team could be heads down, hard at work on fine-tuning, bug fixing, and polishing the game. And again, go into the description if you want to see the full article from IGN, because they also go into talking about the world of Iron Man for PlayStation VR, along with gameplay details, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, this game has gone gold, and I'm actually excited for this game. I'm really hoping that this can be a game that can sell the PlayStation VR. Where like, oh man, I played you want to get a PlayStation VR for this game.
I think you said you played the demo, correct?
Yes.
What was your? I didn't really get your take on that.
I thought it was really fun, like just kind of like how. Just with everything, how you shoot everything, and like you do kind of feel like Iron Man. Like you have the suit, kind of like you have the VR headset on, and when you're around, you have that like AR, like the AR, the AI, the AR, whatever, on you. So like you feel like you're like Tony Stark in the suit, and then you have the move controllers, which are how you do your plasma blast and that kind of stuff. Like it's really fun.
Well, that's good. So so you enjoyed it.
So yeah, don't you still have your VR?
I do have it. Yeah.
Have you downloaded the demo to give it a shot?
Not yet. No, I probably will.
If you
give it a look.
If you download the demo, and then you play it, you actually get a skin for your Iron Man suit in the full game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it is worth doing the demo. Okay.
Yeah, just like with Medieval. I mean, we got a little extra armor. You got a helmet for Medieval when you played the demo before the game came out. One of my favorite games is getting remastered. Next topic is that Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning has been announced. I love this game, Kingdoms of Amalur. I played it back on the PS3, but this is from Reckoning Game. This is the official Twitter, but it's developed and published by THQ Nordic. But it says the rumors are true. Prepare for a re-reckoning because Kingdoms of Amalur is coming back. Remastered with stunning visuals and refined gameplay. It's soon. Time to experience an epic RPG journey and all its DLCs like never before. I cannot wait. I'm excited. And it comes out in August. This game, it will come out in August. I love
Yeah,
it.
I know it's one you've been talking about for a while. Like you've been singing this game's praises, and I didn't really play it much back on the PS3, but I am glad that it's something you'll get to re-experience here.
Yeah. So I cannot wait for that. One last thing before we continue is that one last news topic is that Sony has been fined $3.5 million for misleading Australian customers. So let me go ahead and pull this up. So what has happened is that Sony Europe, which controls Sony operations in Australia, has been fined 3.5 million AUD dollars AUD, so Australian money, for misleading Australian consumers over its refund policy. The company has been ordered to pay this amount in penalties for, quote, making false and misleading representations regarding Australian consumer law rights. And I do have the link also to the full release of the Australian Compensation and Consumer Commission. It's all in the description. But pretty much is said that the court cases that led to this settlement, excuse me, involved a series of consumers who contacted Sony over a game that they deemed faulty. They were refused refunds for two reasons. One, the game was purchased digitally, and two, it had been 14 days since they made that purchase. These responses from Sony do not align with the Australian consumer law, so that's why it all went to court. Another breach of the ACL came as Sony told a consumer that it could not provide a refund, quote, unless the game developer authorized it, and told another that the refund would be issued using digital currency only, usable in the PlayStation Store, which, by Australian law, you can't do that. Also, it has to be whatever it has to be back into their own money. Australian guarantees rights do not expire after ad digital product has been downloaded and certainly do not disappear after 14 days or any other arbitrary date claimed by a game store or developer, reads a statement from Rod Sims, who's the chair of the ACCC. What Sony told these consumers was false and does not reflect the consumer guarantee rights afforded to Australian consumers. According to the release from the ACCC, Sony Europe's team of service implied that users, quote, did not have consumer guarantee rights regarding the quality, functionality, completeness, accuracy, or performance of their purchased digital games between October 2017 and May 2019. So what do you think?
Don't really have much to say. I mean, it's just, yeah, I don't really care. I mean, whatever, they got their refund through and everything. I mean,
it's just, for me, I'm very much like the whole 14 days thing is very much it's a US thing. It's an American thing. And like, in order, if you want to get a return or refund of a digital game, especially, even if it's faulty or, you can't download it because it continues to get corrupted, God, it's a mess to go ahead and get that handled, because once you buy a digital game, it's pretty much yours and you can't return it and you're kind of stuck there. Where in Australia, that's not the thing because of their country's laws. That's why. It's not just we don't kind of really have that here. We don't have we have consumer protection laws, of course, but this one specifically is much more strict in Australia than it is here. So, but yeah, it's they got fined. Come on, guys. Come on, Sony. Don't be doing that. That's not cool. So yeah. And that's all I got for news. So
sounds good.
So should we go into our main topic? Our main discussion?
Why not?
All right, this is our PlayStation conversation.
PlayStation.
We wanted to talk about some of our favorite heroes. So we thought about the idea of talking about the heroes of PlayStation. Now we have opened it up to third parties because there have been very good games that are not PlayStation exclusives that we experienced these protagonist stories. That have been done by the other developers that are not worldwide studios from PlayStation. We are going to mention a few. So pretty much, I have a list of 5. Spectre has a list of 5, creating the 10 heroes of PlayStation. And we're going to kind of discuss why we chose these and what we think of that. Kind of regardless if how they impacted us as a gamer, why we love these protagonists, and so on and so forth. So Spectre, do you want to begin?
Yeah, I can get it started off here.
All right.
And these are in no particular order. It's just basically this is just a kind of a thinly veiled excuse for us to talk about some of our favorite games. So.
Hey man, hey man, like, and it's like that's fine. I have no again, but we've talked about games, but I think it's different talking about the character or the protagonist from from our favorite games, because we talked about our favorite games all the time, but we haven't talked about the character. So
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to focus on.
So I guess to start off here, I think this is one. I'll start off with one I think that a lot of people can get behind, and a lot of people just just love, and he's just somebody that he's just become such a beloved character over the years, and I'm talking about my first one here would be Dante from Devil May Cry.
Oh, okay.
Of course, not necessarily a lot of mine really aren't necessarily exclusives, although I do have at least 2 exclusives on here, or actually 3. But
Yeah.
not necessarily an exclusive character anymore. But when you think of Devil May Cry, I mean, it got its start on PlayStation 2. For the first 3 games, kind of the Dante, I mean, he's just. I guess what I like about him, I mean, he's beyond just the power fantasy the character was designed to embody. I mean, he's just this kind of he's almost this kind of lovable goof. He's almost like an anime character, and in a way, it kind of reminds me of that. He's just this. He's heroic, but also someone that doesn't take himself too seriously. And I think the larger than life characters around him they kind of roll their eyes at him in a way, but also at the same time he's also he also has that kind of that power factor behind him as well too. He's just, I don't know, he was the best part of he's the best part of his games, really. It's a very I'm rambling here, but I mean he's
okay.
very there's a very Japanese kind of sensibility about him in a way too, where he's just where they do this thing where they have their protagonist is someone that can be self-deprecating and can kind of be a little goofy and a little geeky in a way, and that's okay. But they're still also kind of a badass, and they're still cool at the same time. It's kind of this weird kind of mix to them, where I think, as you see with more westernized heroes, they're more like one or the other. They're either they're goofy, or they're super powerful, and you don't really kind of see the mix of the two necessarily. But yeah, no, I guess when I think of PlayStation, I particularly the PlayStation 2, I think of Dante. I think obviously alongside Kratos, but Kratos is a very
He's an
he goes in a very
He's an
he's an
anti-hero.
anti-hero, and Kratos I would never really associate with well, I mean, there are some jokes in God of War, but I wouldn't really associate I wouldn't say Kratos is a really exactly a comedian.
Boy,
I mean,
boy.
yeah,
You better go ahead and do this. Boy, you
not
better do that.
not intentionally, at least. But yeah, so I think he would kind of be my first entry on this list.
Okay. So for me, I'm actually going to go ahead and begin with, I'll begin with one of my favorite franchises of all time, and it's pretty much this is character is the reason is is the reason why. It's Ezio Auditore da Firenze. Ezio Auditore from Assassin's Creed
Assassin's
2.
Creed, of course.
Yep, from Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and Assassin's Creed Revelations. And he again, this game multi-platform. It came out on the PS3 and Xbox 360. But like, one, I will definitely say with Assassin's Creed, when Assassin's Creed, especially when Brotherhood and Revelations came out, you actually got exclusive content on PlayStation. They always would give PlayStation some free content for that. So it was geared more for PlayStation than Xbox. But regardless, Ezio Auditore is very much, you got to see pretty much from his birth to his death. When you start up the game, and you see his birth, and then you play through his teenage years to his adult life, and how he goes from, he sees his family getting wrongfully killed by the people that they trusted the most, and finding out that there's a secret war between the Assassins and Templars. And you see how he goes from just kind of leading with his feelings and leading with his emotions to, by the end of 2, kind of more in control of himself. And the thing is that at the end of 2, when he goes after Rodrigo Borgia, who is the head of the Templars in Renaissance Italy, he's the Pope, but he chooses not to kill him because he's not worth it. It's not worth his time to go ahead and kill him, because it doesn't change anything that has already happened in the past. And that was something that kind of changed him, because if he was like he was when he first became an assassin, when his family was killed, he probably would have killed Rodrigo Borgia, but he doesn't. And then Brotherhood happens, and then you see like, oh, because he didn't kill Rodrigo, Cesare, which is Rodrigo's son, goes ahead and attacks his the villa, which is kind of like where Ezio lives, and then he has to go to Rome to pretty much kind of end this tyranny that Cesare and all that has happened. And then Revelations is that he wants to become, by the end of Brotherhood, he becomes a master assassin, the head of the Assassin Brotherhood, and by doing that, he wants to learn the history. In Revelations, kind of combines what happened Altair, which was in Assassin's Creed 1, to Ezio. So you see old man Ezio being very much, he's still very charismatic. He's always has that charismatic character to him throughout the entire game. But as old man Ezio, he's very, when he's leading the assassins and kind of doing that, he's very like calmed down. He's very in complete and full control of what he's doing. But when he meets his soon-to-be wife, Sophia, there's that charm that he turns it on, and that charm, just that normal Ezio charm that he's always had since 2, comes in, and like there's this whole thing, and you see how he then kind of the Assassin Brotherhood of the Byzantine, how he was able to kind of help them lead them. But he also wanted to, the goal that he was there in Constantinople was to find out the history of Altair. And instead of dying as an assassin, he actually he takes off his hidden blades, and he puts them on Altair's chair in the Grand Library. And he's like, I'm done. I want to live the rest of my life with the time I have with my wife, with Sophia. And then you have the movie Embers, which pretty much leads into the final moments of his life before he dies.
So he's actually kind of a complicated character in it.
Yes, he's a very complicated, and that's the reason why I loved Assassin's Creed and how they told stories back at that time. Because why I love Assassin's Creed, it is the story about good versus evil. It's the assassins for fighting for freedom, where we should have the right to be able to be able to have that freedom. But then the Templars are about order. It's about the theology of, should people have the right to do what they want, or should we have complete order over people? So it's very
relevant for today, actually, in a way.
It very much is. I'm a bit surprised, but that's also a little bit of why I chose Ezio Auditore. Not only because it is my favorite, video game franchise, because it is that, it's it's the hidden war and how history, the game does a really good job, especially from like 2, and then 3 was, I enjoyed 3, 4 was amazing, but kind of like how you have these very famous historic events and how they were shaped by the war between the assassins and Templars. We never see it. Again, this is like, it's still fiction, but it's like, again, one of my favorites is Connor from Assassin's Creed 3. Connor is the reason why you have the Paul Revere, the Ride of Paul Revere. The British are coming. The British are coming. Connor is the one who helped Paul do that, but you never hear about Connor. It's that kind of stuff that I enjoy about Assassin's Creed. But Ezio was the guy. Ezio was the guy that made me fall in love with these deep, well-told stories, which is what I look for in games today. So I love Ezio Auditore, and he's very much a very well-told, very well-done hero for PlayStation, including in video games in general.
Very good, awesome. Speaking of heroes, with kind of an interesting dynamic to him. One I chose, I could see him just as easily on your list as well too. Sir Daniel Fortescue.
Ooh, okay.
I mean, obviously, aside from just being kind of just innately, kind of weirdly lovable and charming in a way, just how goofy he is with his appearance and his attempts at speaking with he's a walking skeleton, raised by his arch nemesis from the dead, and of course he's his jaw is missing, so he can only mumble in an amusing way, basically, as for communication. And he could take his arm off and swing it around as a weapon, but it's not in a macabre way, but in a very charming and kind of cutesy kind of way. But aside from that initial charm of the character and kind of how well he was designed from that aspect, I like how he was portrayed in terms of the story, because it's kind of he's revered as a hero. But he's unworthy of it in a way. At least the tales of his exploits have been greatly exaggerated. He was killed in battle before he could really have his glory. And that's kind of different for most video game heroes. Because usually usually when you play a video game character, it's always like in the highlight of their life, and it's their big accomplishment and everything. But for Fortescue, he's already dead. His tale's been recorded, and he's been revered as a hero throughout the land, but he's not actually a hero because he died before he could become one, really. Yeah. So it's the story is a quest for him to actually prove that, hey, he's worthy of the title, Hero of Gallowmere. So it's kind of a it's an unconventional redemption arc of sorts in a way. Yeah. And it's just it's about saving the realm, but it's also about him kind of proving his name, really, too. So yeah. Just a fun character, just very cleverly designed. So that's why and very iconic PlayStation. Oh, yeah. For me, especially on a personal level, that was one of because I was always a Nintendo kid, initially, and that was one of the Medieval was one of those PlayStation games that really drew me to the console. So that's why he has a really special place in my heart. Him and Crash and Spyro will always have a special place in my heart, because they kind of drew me to PlayStation in general.
Oh yeah, and again, I played. I didn't play Medieval on the PS1. Because I think it was I
keep forgetting that. I always thought you played it back in the day, but you only played it just recently.
No, my first experience with the game was the PS4 remaster, and it was because of the gothic look. Because when I was a kid, that wasn't something that I was I was interested in. I'm not, and again, it was just that's kind of how it was. I like things bright and That's why I like games like, like Spyro and Crash, and I talk about Tomba a lot, or Rayman, or Croc, or they're very light, they're very lighthearted. And there's like, and I'm not saying that Medieval isn't, because it's very charming with how it is, but it's that gothic look that kind of I was like, huh. But no, like regardless, Medieval's Sir Daniel Fortescue is a fantastic character. Um, for me, my next one is going to be Sly Cooper. Um, Sly Cooper,
Okay.
like the Robin Hood of the PlayStation, because Sly would always steal from the like how he was written and how they were done. And this was Sucker Punch's kind of breakout game. I mean, again, this is kind of relevant because their next game is Ghost of Tsushima, which is very different from Sly Cooper and Infamous with Cole McGrath. But Sly Cooper was such a they did the way that Sucker Punch did platformer, because Sly Cooper, especially with 1 and then 2 and 3 became more action oriented, but very much 1 with how they did platforming, how platformers could be done. It was another evolution in that style, in that genre of game. And then you have fantastic characters of like Bentley, and just Murray, like fantastic characters, so charming, and it was such fun gameplay. Again, I didn't have a PS2 back during that time, so I didn't get to experience them when the games came out. I got to experience these games later when the PS3 came out, because I had a backwards compatible system. So if I didn't buy the PS2 games for my PS3, I bought the remaster. They remastered Sly Cooper, and I love that remaster because it has all 3 of the games, and those games are phenomenal. And then I even enjoy Sly Cooper Thieves in Time, which is the 4th game. They made a 4th game by Sanzaro, which is just a developer that is just made of fans of Sly Cooper. Made a fantastic game with Thieves of Time. It very much is just more Sly Cooper. So if you like, if it very much felt like a game from its time frame, kind of like how Medieval still feels like Medieval. When you play it, it feels like it's still, the gameplay aspects of it still feels like it came from the 90s, which is a good thing. It still feels like what I remember from way back in the day. But regardless, the story, the characters, I love Sly Cooper. I love like Sly Cooper and all the characters and everything with that. Did you play Sly Cooper?
No, it was kind of one of those games that was lost in the shuffle back in the days of the PS2. I mean, the PS2 was kind of it was a kind of a good problem to have with the PS2 was there was just so many big franchises and big games, between that and God of War and Jack and Daxter, all this stuff. I mean, there's just so many big games to play that sometimes you just didn't get around to all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Especially we take it for granted now, but back then there wasn't like an internet there to tell you like, oh, or like an active internet to say like, oh, hey, these are the this is kind of the canon of PlayStation 2. These are the must-have games you have to play.
Oh yeah.
So I've since played the series at least a little bit. It's something I need to kind of get around to, and because I mean Sly Cooper was remastered on PS3, so it's something I have to get around to playing again.
And the remaster of 1, 2, and 3 is also, they remastered it to the Vita too, so that was awesome.
There you go.
But yeah, Sly Cooper, the Robin Hood of PlayStation. I love him. What do you got next for me?
I didn't know we were supposed to do like titles for them too, but
Sly Cooper. You have Sly Cooper, Sly Cooper 2. You have Sly 2, Sly 3, Thieves in Time, all that kind of stuff. So.
But okay.
Anyway, what do you got next?
I guess you could say like Dante's like the lovable goof of the PlayStation, and I don't know. I can't think of like one for everybody.
Again, whatever. Who cares? Like that.
You didn't give me You didn't give me a good prompt for this, man.
Dude, that literally just came into my head right now.
I'm just not used to you having good ideas. But okay. Up next, a man of very few words, but also probably one of the most in one of the most emotionally powerful games on the PlayStation that I could think of.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm referring to of course to Wander from Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah. Oh, what a good game. What a good game.
Like I said, a man of very few words. We don't really. He doesn't really say much aside from just a few lines in the game, and we don't really even truly understand his motivation. But also, I think more than pretty much any other protagonist or hero we can think of, very very much dedicated to another person, to what we presume is either his his wife or lover or
Yeah.
relative. I don't think it's ever really explained the relationship that he has, but just to completely, it's such a powerful, I guess, kind of, it's a Shadow of the Colossus is kind of this, it's this fairy tale setting, but it's also kind of this powerful human, emotional story. The lengths that someone would go for someone they love. Um, and it's that's real heroism right there. I mean, it's like I said, it's probably one of the most emotionally powerful PlayStation games I could think of. If you're talking about story and
Mm-hmm.
design and impact. But and also what's notable about him is he's not unlike other PlayStation protagonists, ones we've just mentioned, he doesn't really have any special powers to him.
No.
He's not an undead warrior. He's not a the son of Sparta. He's not an assassin. He's
He's
just
a dude on a horse with a sword. That
he's
is
a dude on a horse with a sword and a bow and arrow, and that's it. And he has to take down.
which that sword is
Uh,
your compass. It's a magic sword that tells you where to go. I love it. It's so
yeah,
good. Oh my god, I
uh,
love it.
and he has to take down creatures that are would probably give some of these other characters a run for their money too.
Well, like,
Uh,
go on, go on. I'll let you finish.
no, I was about finished, but yeah,
Gotcha.
just like I said, probably um, Shadow of the Colossus. I mean, that was honestly that was one of the highlights of this generation, was seeing that seeing that get remade
Oh
and
yeah, like,
updated for the PlayStation 4.
and what
Just
and
glad that more people got to play it.
And what a beautiful game it is! Like, it wasn't like the remaster on the PS3 was just like they ported it to the PS3 with 60 frames per second, 1080p. Where the one on the PS4, the new one that we have on our PS4, is a complete graphic overhaul. It looks gorgeous, and like the story of the game is so simplistic. Wander comes in. It's just like he's trying to save his girlfriend, whoever it is, and his goal, he's told by this spirit, in order to save her, he has to kill these 13 colossi. And these things are massive. And the cool thing is that these are the only enemies in the game. It's not like, before you get to it, you have to kill off waves of, I don't know, mini colossi or what. No, it's literally these 13 big bosses. And the game, and what makes this game so good is like the ending of it. And I will not spoil it because it's so the ending to it is phenomenal. That ending is amazing. Like, I didn't know that game, it would impact me emotionally on a character that rarely ever speaks, and just on how it's done. Yeah, I didn't. I like it's so well done. I love Shadow Colossus. Um, so yeah, I will also move on. So this for me was also a game that impacted me emotionally. Also, my next hero or heroes is Joel and Ellie from The Last of Us, the original Last of Us. I remember playing Last of Us. I remember because it got announced, and I was like, "Oh, it's made from Naughty Dog. Oh, this game is amazing!" Because I played Uncharted, and I love Uncharted, love Crash Bandicoot, love Jak and Daxter. So I'm like, "Oh, it's a new IP. Oh man, this game is gonna this. I can't wait to play this. It's a different Uncharted or whatever." And I wasn't expecting how emotionally impactful, but also emotionally taxing it was on me. Um, I remember playing this game, and at the time, Saints Row 3 also came out around that time too, or like I got it for free or on Plus or whatever it would be. But I remember like the opening to it. I like the opening to it. I cried about that, and I remember there was a very specific part in the game. It's like halfway through. Um, And I remember I got to this point. It's halfway through the game, and after the cinematic, I put the controller down. I was kind of just taken over with emotion and just everything. Like I had to put the controller down, and then like I teared up because it hit me emotionally, and I didn't know that a game could do that to me. That was like the kind of like one of the first times where a game impacted me emotionally. And I put the controller down, like I need a break, and I went to play like Saints Row 3, and like which is a game that I can just turn my brain off. I don't have to think. It's just stupid big old fun. So I was playing like when I was playing Last of Us on the PS3, I was also playing Saints Row because of just how emotionally, like again, I needed a break from the like how just intense Last of Us was to me. What a beautiful story it told. You have these moments of just of fear, and you don't know if you're going to be able to survive the clickers and the humans that are also there. You have these moments, but then you also have these moments of just pure bliss, where it's just these little calming moments. What a fantastic story! What a well told story that very much in the ending to that game, it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. And like for me, I've said this before in other DualShocks, is that ending was so perfect. Like I knew there was going to be a Last of Us 2 coming out even before the announcement years ago, but I didn't want it was so perfect. I'm like, if they're going to do a sequel, I don't want it to be about Joel and Ellie. I want it to be about someone else because that's too perfect. Now, we do know that this story is going to be about Ellie again. And we're going to see where this goes. I don't know where it goes, and I will keep it that way. But regardless, the gameplay of Last of Us is so well done because if you on harder difficulties, but like it does a good job of having that sense of fear and intenseness, and you have to survive through what's happening. And the story is just so well told, so well done. And Last of Us has been named by multiple publications game of the decade, and honestly I would agree. Like the best game on the PS3 for that generation would be Last of Us, in my opinion. Now let's see what Spectre has to say. I'm waiting.
I
I'm
won't say
waiting.
much more than I already have on that. I mean, obviously, I disagree. I mean, I played it to some extent. I didn't finish it,
You can
Last of
do it.
Us, but I I don't know. I can understand, that you had an emotional resonance with it, and I understand some people really get drawn to the two leads in that game. But for me, it just didn't really catch me in my feels like it did for you.
Like in Joel, like again, you have just these of how Joel and Ellie operate together is so different. But I do know, like ooh, God, I have hiccups. Excuse me. Um, just like Joel and Ellie, like what fantastic three-dimensional characters. I know you disagree, but what can you do? But again, that's that. But again, this like Joel and Ellie are fantastic heroes, dealing with all this like kind of just broken down, horrible world that has happened. So, yeah, I'll leave it there. What do you got next?
Yeah. So still got two more here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go with a just iconic. Well, technically not exclusive anymore. I understand, but just iconic PlayStation franchise. Really, another one of the kind of, I guess, foundational franchises for me that really got me into PlayStation. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
lured me over from my fierce. Keep in mind I was a kid, so
Oh, of course.
fierce loyalty. I was basically like you back then, where you would die on a hill for PlayStation
Yeah.
if it came down to it. Or and that's how I was as a kid for Nintendo. I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I was complete denial about it. I was like, okay, yeah, so you got those full motion cutscenes and stuff, but still, Nintendo's got Super Mario 64 and stuff. Just completely irrational, but just loyal. But one of the games that the series that really got me over was Tekken, and that's
Oh,
really saying something. As I'm not really a fighting game fan in general,
yeah.
but Tekken really lured me over, and I my hero or protagonist here, I was talking about Jin Kazama. Pretty much if you don't know who that is, he's pretty much the guy on the box from Tekken 3 all the way on.
Okay.
Aside from the most recent entry, Tekken 7, I believe the box art has Heihachi and Kazuya on the front, kind of a composite of their faces. Now I normally play as Kazuya, who's kind of who's Jin's father, who's kind of but he's really more of a villain character, so I couldn't really pick him for this list. But Jin's kind of fascinating in a way too. He's sort of he kind of he's kind of a conflicted character in a way, because he has this legacy, this terrible legacy of his father and his grandfather, who are basically the number one and number two most evil people in the Tekken universe.
Yeah.
They want to take over the world. They do all these terrible things. They have the Kazuya has the devil gene in him and all this stuff. It's just he's sort of this kind of in a way the answer to that, to kind of the sins of his father and his grandfather. So he's kind of a fitting hero in a way, and from that perspective, he kind of fulfills his family's legacy, or kind of balances it in a way, sort of like I lost my comparison there, but anyways, even though he's not a character that I normally play as in this series, he is someone I usually kind of like have as like an alternative character, or like in Tekken Tag, I use them as like a tag character.
So he was impactful too. Like, he's not your main. Like, I get it.
He's not my main, but I wanted to pick like a good character, like a moral character for the list, not Kazuya, who's pretty evil. Now you could say he does some good things on occasions for the wrong reasons, but if you really wanted to stretch it, he's basically evil. But although in Kazuya's defense, you could really say it was a product of not just bad parenting, awful parenting. I mean, his father literally threw him off of a cliff. It's just, I mean, so, but then again, you could, Kazuya was also a horrible parent to Jin, but Jin turned out good. So I guess you can't really use that argument. So, just Tekken in general is kind of what I wanted to talk about. And it just really is. What do you think of, that was just always the standout fighting franchise on PlayStation.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, again, that was one. I didn't get into fighting games until honestly later, like probably until like middle school, high school. I really didn't get into fighting games back in the day. I don't even remember if I had a fighting game on my PS1. But I will definitely say, like, I played the first Tekken game I ever played. I'm not even kidding. Was Tekken 7 on the PS4. Just like, it was me and my friends were over at me and my buddies were over at one of our buddies' house, and they were like, "All right, Brett, come on, play some Tekken with us." And I'm like, "Okay." I had no idea how to play, how the controls work, anything. And I'm like, "Okay, what character I'll play?" Bob. I'm gonna choose Bob. He looks like me. Look at me, big fat guy. Like, I'm gonna choose the big fat guy. And so I choose Bob. Now, mind you, all of my friends that play Tekken and are very good at it. I choose Bob. I load into the arena and start just beating them, just destroying them. And my friends are all going, "What is happening? Are you sure you'd never played Tekken?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've never played Tekken. This is my first time." And they're like, Fudge, what?" So, no, I love Tekken. I don't know the story behind Tekken, so that's awesome that you do. But, like, I will say, Tekken is a fantastic fighting game. So, for me, another one I'm going to choose is, this is another third-party one. It's actually another very story-driven game, but it's Lee and Clementine from the Walking Dead, the Telltale series. And I absolutely love Lee and Clementine. I love Lee, but you can't go ahead and discount Clementine, because the story of Telltale's Walking Dead is about Clementine. and you just kind of go through the story, and it is similar to, like, again, it's another post-apocalyptic zombie like game, but unlike with Last of Us, where you're going to be told this story by going through the game. Telltale's Walking Dead, the first season is what put Telltale on the map, became Game of the Year. Because I remember, like, the first Telltale game I ever played was Back to the Future. I love the Back to the Future. I love the movies. It's one of my favorite movie franchises. I played the Back to the Future game. It was fun, but like it was like I loved it because it was Back to the Future. But Walking Dead, Telltale's Walking Dead was amazing, and it tells the story of Lee up until season one, and then you play as Clementine for the rest of this franchise, and just how her story is told and what she has to deal with, and just, again, it's another one of, like, you're going to see all of the hardships that she has to go through, along with some very good, touching moments that happened for her also. But you get to dictate how that happens. You get to kind of figure out who you get to relate to and who you want to make relationships with, and you dictate the conversation choices and how the story turns out. I love that, like, that the Walking Dead season 1 made me fall in love with the Telltale games. Batman, Guardians of the Galaxy, Game of Thrones. My favorite Telltale game is Tales from the Borderlands. It's my favorite, hands down. But I love Telltale Walking Dead, and these two characters, Lee and Clementine, you get to see how Lee impacted her. And it seems like Lee impacted her more than her own parents, because and sadly her parents died from the actual zombies. And Lee was pretty much like her father figure from season 1, and then you go through the story. What a fantastic story of a character, and you get to experience it with her. It's not just kind of like you being on the outsider looking in. Because you are choosing the conversation choices that she is going to be having, you get to kind of be inside of her own head. You get to be in the driver's seat. That's what I enjoy about Telltale's games, is that you are in the driver's seat. You're not seeing it from a third person perspective where you're the outsider looking in. Yes, you are controlling the main character. You're controlling it from there. But because you are making the conversation choices, you get to experience the story that's being told. Yes, like, when it comes to gameplay, it's pretty much a walking simulator. But when it comes to its story, that's where it's very well done. Like, these games are not built on gameplay, it's built on its story. And that's why I love, like, Telltale games, and specifically The Walking Dead. And Lee and Clementine are very well done and very well told.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's you kind of have almost a deeper connection with them in a way, because um you're actually affecting their actions. You're kind of you have an element of choice with them.
Yeah. So what else you got for me? I think you got the final one.
Yeah. Last but not least, and I mentioned this one, in hopes that one day we will get the remake it deserves. But definitely, once again, a series that, in its glory days, we always associate with the PlayStation, and really, at least, I mean, well, this time, the first title in the series, and the third, at least the third as well, are still exclusive to their respective consoles. Well, actually, the third one is on PC as well, and I'm referring to, of course, to Silent Hill. In
Okay.
particular, in terms of a heroic character, kind of a do-gooder type character. The choice there was easy. I went with the protagonist of Silent Hill 1, Harry Mason, who is, out of all the other characters that we see in the subsequent Silent Hill games, his journey is really the most, I guess you could say, selfless in a way. It's the most, it's born out of his his journey to save his daughter, essentially. Whereas in future Silent Hill games, the characters it wasn't really, it didn't have that same degree of, they're kind of doing it more so for themselves or for revenge or for a desire to to have an introspective journey and to kind of punish themselves for something. At least in Silent Hill 1, Harry was really just out to save his to save his daughter. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and really, you see, you kind of see both extremes in the game too. You see an example of a mother. That's actually, it's also kind of an interesting dynamic I always consider with this game too, is that usually, I mean, I think in our society, in a broader sense in general, we kind of associate, um, you know, usually we associate mothers as good and fathers as, unfortunately, this is kind of the case. We associate, mothers as necessary and fathers as kind of optional,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term. It's not needed. Whereas in at least in Silent Hill 1, it's the opposite dynamic. Um, Cheryl Mason, we see a mother figure, with, Dahlia Gillespie, the kind of the antagonist of the game, basically using her daughter Alessa as a vessel for their cult ritual to summon, a demon, their kind of demonic god or Satan,
Mm-hmm.
basically,
Yeah.
and literally using her daughter as a sacrifice, as a vessel for that, essentially. And so the mother as kind of this evil, exploitative, character, as contrasted to Harry, who's literally going for this hellish nightmare of a of encountering horrifying monsters and going for, and seeing all these terrible things to save his daughter,
Yeah.
adopted daughter, basically. So, it just, kind of a reversal of that kind of cultural dynamic. So, yeah, I hope we get a remake. I think Silent Hill 1 really needs it. The other games in the series, Silent Hill 2 and 3, 4, etc. I think they've aged really well, but I think Silent Hill 1 could really use one of these, remakes, akin to, like, what we saw of Crash and, Spyro. I think that would work really well, and that would definitely draw a lot of eyeballs to PlayStation 5. So I hope some of the rumors are true that, Silent Hill is coming back, because it really is a iconic PlayStation franchise. You think of it, you think of PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of my favorite series of all time, and, I'd very much like to. I played through Silent Hill 1 on PlayStation 1, but I'd love to revisit it, in a like a remake fashion.
I love it how like I started my list. I started my list with a third party, but it's my favorite franchise. You ended your list with yours because I started with Assassin's Creed. You started with Silent Hill. You ended with Silent Hill. So my final one. I have one, but I'm going to go ahead and cheat, and I'm going to take these two because they kind of represent the same thing. My final chosen hero of PlayStation is Spyro the Dragon, and of course Crash Bandicoot. Pretty much the two mascots that put PlayStation on the map forever. Like these two franchises, Spyro and Crash, pretty much put it. Now, I honestly chose Spyro because I'm not even kidding. I thought you were going to choose Crash as one of your heroes. I'm not even kidding. But the reason why I bring that up is because, again, both Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, made by Naughty Dog and Insomniac, two big flagships from PlayStation, especially during the PS1, that helped put the PlayStation on the map. It's very much good versus evil. You have Crash versus Cortex, Spyro versus Nasty Nork, and others as the series goes on. And the way they did platforming was so different. But I remember, like, the game that got me going, like, I love video games when I was a kid, was Spyro and Crash. It was those two. I just like Spyro more because it's a dragon and dragons are rad. But, like, what phenomenal games those were. And then we've talked about the Spyro Reignited trilogy and the Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy on the PS4, who are now we like there are kids who are now growing up with these same games that we used to grow up and like experience them in their original form with the updated graphics and everything. Um, they both are heroes because one, in their own games, it's very much the basic good versus evil. You have to take down Nasty Nork because he's freezing all the dragons. You have to take down Cortex because in Crash 1 because he stole your girlfriend, or because he's trying to take over the world from the rest of the games. Like, whatever. Or in Spyro, there's Ripto. There's the Queen who's stealing all the eggs. Like, so on and so forth. Like, so what is just a classic good versus evil, but these trilogies defined a generation, defined the PlayStation, defined kind of what the PlayStation has to offer when it comes to its gameplay. And there's of course others. You have Metal Gear, you have Tekken, which we brought up on the PS1, Medieval, which you have brought up. But really, what put PlayStation on the map were these two mascots, these two heroes, Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon. And what phenomenal games they were, and are, honestly.
Nice. Yeah. No, I think we really got a kind of good group here, of kind of games that I think for the most part are characters that are iconic, PlayStation, or you associate them with, um even Assassin's Creed. I think that was, I mean, you kind of associated, like usually Assassin's Creed always got like extra DLC on PlayStation,
Mm-hmm.
like you said. So I think we have kind of a good list of really iconic PlayStation characters, even if they're not all of them are necessarily like exclusive to PlayStation anymore.
Yeah, and like when I think of PlayStation, I honestly think of story-driven games. I would want to play, like, again, yes, Telltale Walking Dead is on multi-platform, but like I want to play that on my PlayStation. And again, it doesn't really matter, but like I when I think of PlayStation, I think of these story-driven games, and we've talked about them. We talked about Last of Us and the Shadow Colossus and so on and so forth. Like these fantastic games, and characters that we have fallen in love with, and another reason why we love video games so much. So yeah, I think that's all I got. You got anything, Spectre?
No, that's about it.
But guys, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please let us know what you guys think. What do you think about, like, tell us what kind of where you stand on what we talked about, or like what are some of your favorite heroes, your favorite protagonists from PlayStation? We would love to hear what those would be. But guys, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/Brotherhood of Geeks. Tell everyone you know, tell your buddy, tell your friend, tell your brother, whoever. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Also, whenever we put up a video, press the bell icon. That way, whenever we put up a video, we put up a video. You can also follow us on all the social media. You can follow us on Facebook, which is facebook.com/The Brotherhood of Geeks. You can follow us on Twitter at Dualshock'd BOG. That's the name of our PlayStation podcast, Dualshock'd BOG. And then you can also follow us on Twitch when we stream at twitch.tv/Brotherhood of Geeks. So yeah, that's everything. That, like, we went through news. We debated for a little bit, and then we got to talk about other stuff. This was a very interesting episode. I'm not even gonna lie.
I agree.
So yeah, alrighty then. Well, I'm Brett J. Rasmussen,
I'm Spectre,
and as always, live to play together. We'll see you guys next time.